Hello and welcome to the Peak Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Tate, and with me is Isabel.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are speaking to a young man called Harrison Malcolm. He's called that because that's his name. And Harry's come on to talk to us about the Chris O'Brien Lifehouse, which is a cancer treatment hospital, I believe. And he's going to come on and tell us all about his circumstances and how it's helped him, and then what we can do to help
Go
support,
the distance.
to go the distance to help support the Chris O'Brien Lifehouse. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
No worries. So you're an ambassador for the Go the Distance, which is like a challenge for people. Firstly, though, can you tell us what is the Chris O'Brien Lifehouse? Like Ron sort of said a little bit, but for the listeners who may not have ever heard of it, if you want to just maybe tell them a little bit about that, just to start us off.
Yes. So it's actually a beautiful background story. Chris O'Brien was a brain surgeon, very successful in his industry, and he was actually diagnosed with brain cancer himself. And with that, he raised a lot of awareness about, brain cancer and other cancers. And he kept working through his diagnosis. And then eventually he passed away. And in his legacy, people got together and they made this beautiful center to help people with cancer and facilitate all kinds of people who have different niches of cancers. So, he left a really powerful legacy. And from now on, it's you're testing my memory here.
Sorry. A long time.
I think, maybe 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. I think so.
Okay.
I mean, that non-direct quite there, but it's definitely got a reputable reputation, and for me personally, it's helped me and my family and the support group, the specialists, the list goes on, and just the little things that they do really well speaks volumes.
Where is it located?
It's located in Sydney, sort of Missenden Road, opposite RPA. So it's the real hub of emergency clinics centre. So yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up needing to go there?
So basically, in a nutshell, I was starting to have seizures quite regularly, and that after a few scans, they noticed a tumor, a mass that was in my brain. And at that stage, when you find a mass in the brain, you either go for a biopsy or you have surgery. So I went straight for surgery at RPA, and then they tested that tumor and it came back as a certain cancer. Now, you could ask me how to pronounce what type of cancer it is, but I do not know how to pronounce it. It's got, I think, 45 letters in it still. So I still struggle with it, but it's some type of glioma, and it's not a good one. So the surgeons recommended Chris O'Brien Lifehouse. So from then on, I was treated with radiation there, and any other support there as well. Seeing a psychologist there as well. They offer physio because I had shoulder problems as well from the seizures. So the facilities there are endless.
And so how long ago did you start were you diagnosed with this?
So I started having seizures in 2021, 3 months after I turned 21. And then that February 2022, I started going through radiation. And then afterwards, shoulder surgery, and continue to go there to see my oncologist and the team there. I call them the A team because the team at the O'Brien Lifehouse are unreal. So, they're superheroes down there.
Yeah. So how did did you have any inkling that there was something wrong before you started having the seizures, or was it quite a surprise?
It was a real shock. Had no warning, no headaches.
Oh, really?
I like to think I had a healthy lifestyle before. I was just sort of always sort of kept fit. and there was nothing out of the ordinary, no slurred speeches or nothing that I could pick up.
Yeah.
It was just a sudden drop and seizures, multiple seizures back to back.
Mm. And how far away are you where you live from the Lifehouse?
So at the time I lived in the Southern Highlands, which is not that far from Sydney. So I was quite lucky in that sense. But then, I mean, it does add up eventually. Going to radiation every day, having support networks, great, but then they have to travel, and the travel adds up. And then it broadened my mind to people who have to travel, much interstate, much broader places to get treatment. So I was quite lucky. And in that sense, I mean, an hour and a half is really nothing compared to what people had to go through.
So why are people coming from interstate? Are there not places similar in other states, or is this like the major one in Australia?
So for me, for my particular cancer, there was no reasonably close treatment or specialist close by to accommodate for what I needed. And there's so many of those cases, nationwide and globally. I'm sure that some cancers are so rare and they need certain treatments, and you have to travel for those, and that's really unfortunate, and that's creating a big barrier between health and how we supply medical resources. So that really created a perspective for me, for sure.
Yeah, being we're in a big country. We're in Melbourne, which has pretty high standard of treatment facilities as well. But Australia's a big place, so
yeah, exactly.
If you're not in Melbourne or Sydney,
and you can't necessarily afford to move or have the means to move, and so then what do you do for treatment? That makes it really tough.
Right,
yeah. So can you maybe give us an example of some cases that you may have heard where people have had to travel from Alice Springs or somewhere like that?
I actually came across a beautiful story. It was really heartbreaking. I came across a few months ago about a little boy. I think his family was based near Dubbo, and this was around the time of the floodings. And he was diagnosed with a cancer. He needed treatment in Sydney. So him and his mother flew over there, but couldn't come back home because the floods were so bad. And they had to stay there for a bit. And then he had treatment again. The floods were getting worse. And it was just the accumulated effect of everything going wrong, and completely out of your control. And I just found that so heartbreaking. It's like they could afford to travel this far, but then they couldn't come back home. And then it made me thought, okay, well, there's people who aren't financially able to travel that far. And you're really stuck, and you really just have to bear with what you got. And sometimes with what you got is not enough. And that's, to me, it's just heartbreaking, and it's an eye opener for sure.
And and especially, I mean, we're both parents, so thinking of your child, that would be even worse almost than being yourself. Because you feel you want to provide the care for them, and then those parents must find it really hard too. So. But that's why this Go the Distance challenge has started. Can you explain to the listeners what it's all about?
So Go to the Distance I find it remarkable. It's helps satellite clinics to go to these isolated areas, and to give treatment for people who can't travel necessarily, or who are too sick or financially scarce to get treatment. And I think going the distance, I think with that endurance, people have to have that in all aspects of life. And especially when you're sick, that endurance level and energy enhances tenfold. And I think creating awareness to challenge yourself for those who are not as sick or who are in, a better scenario, to challenge your endurance, to remind yourself that there are people who just do it day-to-day basis just to make it to tomorrow and just to make it to next week, just so they can see their parents, or just the little things like that. So I think it's a great reminder to test your endurance, and a reminder of others who are, enduring every day, just to battling through their sickness.
Yeah, I mean, we're ultra runners and we like to think we've got good endurance, but we only have to suffer for 20 hours or something,
Yeah.
and then it's all over and we're fine. But it's a whole different level of endurance of what people like yourself and others have to deal with. So, I mean, we can all just do a little bit to help. And so, how can we help? How can our listeners get involved, because they are runners and they run long distances? So
Yeah, well, that's great. They're halfway there. So
Yeah.
how the platform is they pick amount of Ks they want to do in August. Say if they're ultra runners. So I'm assuming an ultra runner could do 1,000 Ks in the month. I don't know. Is that too big?
They've all just had a heart attack.
I mean,
maybe more like, I'd say maximum, around 400 maximum, 400 to 500 max. But
okay. That's comforting to know. Okay, so they pick 400 kilometers to run in the month, and they say, I'm going to this August to help people, or they might know a relative or a family friend, to help this individual. And then they create that awareness and people sponsor them, and those funds that individual make will go to this charity. And then you can have a team as well. So you can create a team. And then your Ks end up being 1,000 kilometers a month.
Yes, so, there we go.
So you can have a team of 2 will get 1,000 kilometers or close to. So, and that's how you do it as well. If you don't want to run, you can walk, you can swim, cycle. So it covers all.
Yeah, I was going to say we need other things because runners are notoriously injured. So, so firstly, how do you log the run? Like, how you just writing what you've done, or do you have to show like your watch photo?
Yeah, so on Go to Distance they use Fitbit or Strava as a tracker. So I mean, I use both. When I run, I use my Garmin and I put Strava on as well. It just picks up Strava, and I just have an extra backup of recording as well. But Strava, it just automatically just transfers onto your Ks.
Easy.
Adds up.
That's super easy, because we've done other challenges and it was very complicated.
We're supposed to work that easily, but never seems to work that well.
That's good to know. And so are all kilometers equal? Like if I go and run 20 Ks, is that equal to riding 20 Ks? Like, do we still...
Yeah, I mean,
I personally think the riding's easier, so it's kind of...
I mean, I know a few cyclists, so if I do say that cycling looks easier, they will might disown me if I say that. So everything's different. Yes, I agree. But every K counts, and it's 20 Ks is big for a lot of people. And the idea is just making it count and making it count for you as an individual. So however many Ks it is, it doesn't matter. If it's 1K and that's a big deal for you, that's great. And that's what I like about it. Like, there's no competition about it. There's no ego about it. It's challenging yourself and making it count for you, to help those who put effort in every day just to make it to tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
just on a personal note, what sort of things are you doing, as far as your exercise regime? Are you back into fitness, or are you still, suffering effects of your treatment, or how is that going?
I am happily back into exercising, which is great. I am running every second day and then gymming every other day. So I try and get a mix of both. But then when August comes, I'll just be running every day. So that'll be a challenge in itself. And I'm just trying at this stage of my running. I mean, I'm not your professional runners, so I'm not a perfect runner, but I'm just trying to work on my pace, breathing, heart rate, just keeping it simple. And then so when August comes, I can recover quick and back it up and keep going every day.
Yeah. And the thing is with this kind of challenges, you don't have to be an awesome runner. I mean, anything counts.
Yeah, exactly. Just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And if people, once they've registered like themselves or a team, how do they get people to give money to them? Do they each get a paid, or what happens there?
Yeah, so there's there's a few steps you follow, which is all on Go to Distance website. And I think the second or third step you put it out there on your social medias. You can do blogs, and you just create that awareness, and then after that, the network creates, and you create exposure, and the more exposure we get, the better. So yeah, there's certain steps that you follow on the website, but I think the big one is social media, or just word of mouth. Anyway, you can share it. Just use that.
And people who do donate, like, is any level of donation welcome?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's yeah.
Some of us, it is a bit tough at the moment. So any donation, no matter how small, is helpful.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it is a bit scarce at the moment. You can talk about cost of living and all these other factors of donating. But I think it's just a reminder of, even if you don't donate and you can't donate, you're not in a position to donate, but you're just making it count somehow in your life, and you're enduring whatever hardships you're going through, and maybe creating perspective of there are people in worst case scenarios. And so hopefully we create a lot of donations and we help those. But if people can't, they create a perspective and a clear mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just the raising of awareness of the fact that, everybody knows cancer is difficult, but within the difficulty of that, there's even more difficulties of, accessing care and all these other things that people have to deal with. And it's very rare to meet someone who hasn't at least known someone who's had cancer. So
yeah, and the statistics are so scary. I think 1 in 2 people either have cancer or know someone who has cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's like shocking. That
is shocking.
That's a really big statistic. And I think it's the little things they don't really talk about. So you do see a lot of sick people who are physically so impaired and are struggling, and that's hard to watch. But then you see, like, I feel guilty myself because I live with cancer, and a reminder, I get checkups. But I also have to understand, like, how can I carry on now with knowing I have cancer, and having that endurance to appreciate a little moment because I want to, not because I have to. There's little stuff like that you don't really hear about as much. So that, I think, creating a little awareness about that is really important.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and also, part of the travel, the issues with travel is that the strain it puts on the family. It's not just, the person that has the cancer or their direct carer, but then someone has to look after siblings. Someone has to take care of the house while the other person's traveling. There's a whole
loss of income if they're working, all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. It impacts everyone. It'll impact, which is really scary. But when it's really powerful as well, because they come together as a community and support you, so you feel really grateful for that. And the gratitude for me is up for tenfold, and I am really grateful for everyone that has helped me throughout the way and keep helping me. At the same time, it's scary, because you don't want to get sick again and let them down. So
that's right. So do you all kind of develop really quite close relationships with the people? Because I'm sure you see similar people there all the time. Is that what happens at the Lifehouse then?
Yeah, definitely. And it's fascinating. Like, I remember each day I had to go into radiation at the same time every day for 6.5 weeks. And I think I was one of the youngest people there. Everyone was 60 plus. I'm not saying 60 is old, so
that's good.
Try and offend any
not
audience.
That we're 60,
no.
But we're getting closer.
No, it's all good. But there was a lot of moments there where I was speaking to a lot of people with a different background, different religion, different cancers, and it was so open and honest. And every day I would see the same people. And it was something sweet about that. And it was, everyone was going through this necessary evil, and yet there was some sort of content and peace around it at the same time. So I bared witness to that, and that was, for me, I'll always hold cherish, very much so.
Yeah. No, that's great. And it sounds like it's a really special place that emphasizes the whole person, not just treating the cancer, but the whole person.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, in every element. You don't just go, and it's very easy to become mundane when you get treatment and you go in, clock on to your treatment, you clock off. But each day, the nurses, I mean, my experience, the nurses are great. The receptionists are great. The people who, clean the hospitals are great as well. So the whole atmosphere is just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really worthwhile people being able to go there. And so may I ask, how are you doing? Like, how does it look for your future?
I mean, it looks so at the moment I get regular checkups.
Yeah.
With neurologists, with oncologists, and with I obviously get MRIs a lot as well. And it's a great reminder for me to sort of take back and sort of keep grounded of how grateful I am with what I have. At the same time, I'm only over 2 years almost with this, and that's for a brain cancer that's very young. So, and that's sort of scary. So the more you sort of grow into it, the more chances will grow back, and you're just sort of anticipating when that's going to happen. And so each checkup, you sort of get a bit of anxiety around,
I can imagine.
it could be this one. And if it is, am I prepared for it? And what does that look like if I am? So
and here's why the psychologist would be so important for you too.
Yes, definitely. And definitely keep that clarity in your head, which is easier said than done sometimes. But I'm finding now when I run, it's just like meditation. When you lock onto that zone of heart rate and stride. It's very easy. It's like, you're at peace, I reckon. Well, it happens to me. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of runners would agree with you. They might not have, such big problems as you, but that's why we all love it so much, I think.
Yeah, it's very addictive. Very addictive.
Very much so.
Yeah, you're talking to two very addicted people.
You'll get into ultra running. Just start small.
That's what I want to end up doing. Start challenging myself and doing that. For sure. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, look, thank you so much. Did you have more questions? Did you have anything maybe that we didn't touch on that you would like to share with us? Actually, did we ask all the right questions, or is
you did great. I was going to ask you more questions about ultra marathons and seeing which one's the next one. But no, I just very grateful to create awareness to this Go to Distance, Chris O'Brien Lifehouse, and can't emphasize enough on challenging yourself to endure some difficult times through exercise.
And maybe this month people can up their kilometers a bit just to challenge themselves a bit.
Yeah. So ultra marathons, what, an average of 50Ks? Do 60 maybe. I don't know if that's
50 to 100 to 100 miles to 200 miles to whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever you want, whatever you feel. For the individual, it's accustomed to. It's fine.
So what's the where can they go to find out more information?
So you can go on Go to the Distance, Chris O'Brien Lifehouse, or Chris O'Brien Lifehouse will have a link as well on their website. And also it's on Instagram, Facebook, all the socials as well.
I'll put the links in the show notes if you're busy running and can't remember. So just go back, look at the show notes, and the links will be there. Thank you so much for coming on, Harry, and sharing your story, because I know it's a difficult one, but we really appreciate you coming on so that people can fully understand.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
No worries. All right. See you later.
Bye.